Prix.com. The highlights of the San Marino Grand Prix.
Formula 1 2000 is back in Europe after the opening long-haul races of the season. We're at the Enzo e Dino Ferrari circuit in Imola, scene of the San Marino Grand Prix. Hello there, welcome to the highlights of this afternoon's race. Ferrari come to their home track in great shape after those Michael Schumacher victories in Australia and Brazil. And Schumacher's been dominating most of the practice sessions throughout the weekend. Not this morning's warm-up though. Schumacher finishing third to the McLarens, but coming in too fast for his Ferrari front jackman. A case of nose to nose cone. Thankfully, no harm done. Before that, in qualifying, McLaren pulled out all the stops.
David Coulthard's always on the pace here. He takes the mid-session pole. Ralf Schumacher underlines his and Williams' potential with a run to fifth before his engine fails. But Mika Häkkinen's on his usual form. He wrestles the top spot back from his teammate.
Over the line he goes 6/10 ahead of David Coulthard.
With minutes to go, the session is set for a classic climax. Schumacher goes quickest despite a mistake at Ravazza.
Yes! Michael Schumacher, pole position, and don't they love him?
But a few hundred yards down the track lurks Häkkinen. With total commitment and a little twitch, he takes pole to the delight of Team McLaren. And so 3 poles in as many races for Häkkinen, with Michael Schumacher right alongside. Coulthard third, Barrichello fourth. Ralf Schumacher starting on the front of the third row, followed by Frentzen, an impressive Irvine, and Trulli in the second Jordan. Birthday boy Villeneuve lines up ninth, then it's Wirtz in the middle of a Sauber sandwich. De La Rosa's Arrows heads up row 7 in front of Zonta, Alesi and Verstappen, then a disappointing Johnny Herbert and Jenson Button 17th and 18th. Fisichella in even worse shape in 19th, ahead of the Minardis of Mazzacani and Genet, and Heidfeld in the second Prost. It's the San Marino Grand Prix then with Martin Brundle and Murray Walker.
That's it, away they go. Good one, Häkkinen, good one, Schumacher, and Rubens Barrichello is alongside David Coulthard. It looks to me as though he's going ahead, but Michael Schumacher fighting for position, and Barrichello has got ahead of David Coulthard, and that is a real strike for Ferrari. So it's McLaren, Ferrari, Ferrari, McLaren. David Coulthard ducking and diving, and Jacques Villeneuve has come up extremely well. From 9th on the grid to 5th in the race, he's in front of both the yellow Jordans who are fighting each other as they go round the Tosa, the left-hander, and climb up towards the Piratella. So Barrichello, Coulthard, and the rest of them streaming through.
Now here's the start. Look at Michael Schumacher snaking across, gets in front of Coulthard. Coulthard has to lift out. Ralf Schumacher on the grass and gives Barrichello the run. He so nearly took Michael, actually. Now Barrichello jumps on the throttle, look, squeezes Coulthard wide, and then he has the position. This is, you're on board with Barrichello. Look, Michael Schumacher, too much wheel spin, realised it, moved across to cut off Coulthard. Barrichello getting a fabulous run right down the outside, and really should have stayed on it there. I think he could have taken Michael too. But this was the good bit, keeping on the gas, squeezing out the competitors. Now Frentzen is in the pits. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the pits.
Tough luck for Jordan, because they'd worked their way up to 3rd with Williams in the Constructors' Championship as a result of their success in Brazil. 3rd and 4th places there to Frentzen and Trulli. So, completion, look at this. Schumacher is closing. The gap was previously just over a second. Now it's just under a second. Not very much to close, but here is the battle again between the third and fourth cars. Oh, there, Jenson Button out of the race. So he failed to finish in his first race in Australia. He's out of the San Marino Grand Prix, fighting for 17th position.
As I turned into the left part of the second chicane, it just locked, the rear wheels just locked, loads of smoke out the back. It felt like an engine failure, but I'm not going to say anything too much yet. But there you go.
It looks to me as though the race is just settling down a bit. Remember that Mika Häkkinen has got the pressure on him. He hasn't scored in Australia, he hasn't scored in Brazil. Michael Schumacher won both races. He's got 20 points in his pocket, whereas Häkkinen has got none. Michael Schumacher can afford to settle for second place, and he will be keeping Häkkinen under pressure all the time. Mika has got to stay cool, get his lines right, make sure he brakes in the right places, accelerates in the right places, takes the tail enders at the right time, hopefully so that he can put one between himself and Michael Schumacher. That's Barrichello and Coulthard third and fourth, and the gap is increasing now, something like half a second a lap between Häkkinen, who is leading, and Barrichello, who is in third place, and therefore Coulthard, who is in fourth place. Fifth is Villeneuve, sixth is Trulli, seventh is Irvine, eighth is Ralf Schumacher, ninth is Mika Salo, top 10, Jos Verstappen. And news from James Allen in the pits.
Yeah, just looking at the figures here, the lap times, that kind of thing, trying to work out what everybody's doing. It looks to me, obviously, as though Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher are on the same strategy, and their lap times very much consistent with a two-stopper, expecting them to come in sometime around lap 24 to 26. And obviously, the timing of those stops is going to be critical. You might see one of them running a little bit longer than the other. Behind them, however, Rubens Barrichello is being dropped about a second a lap, and that too consistent with a guy who's got a bit more fuel on board, which is what Michael Schumacher did here last year. He started with a one-stop fuel load, and I think that's what Rubens is doing. The critical point of this race then, guys, is going to be the mid-phase between lap 32 and 45, when the two-stoppers start coming in again. That's when Rubens is going to have to play his role to help Michael get back out in front of Häkkinen.
Häkkinen has just done two consecutive fastest laps of the race. He's now down to 128.2 and edging away from Michael 3 or 4 tenths per lap. Mika is very, very happy that he went for the softer tyre yesterday. He was looking at the sky. We were all a bit chilly, wearing a jacket down there in the paddock earlier on. He said, I've got the right tyres. I'm really excited about this afternoon. I think I've made the right choice, because it's nowhere near as warm as we all expected yesterday.
I'm not going to be very popular for what I'm about to say, but there's little doubt in my mind that the first two races of the year were lost by McLaren rather than won by Ferrari. Yes, Ferrari won, and they won nobly by finishing, and the McLarens didn't. And look at this. This is Villeneuve battling with Jarno Trulli for fifth position.
Yes, Villeneuve really under pressure there, and knowing it, going very, very early to cover his line, which compromises his entry to that first Tamburello chicane quite badly. Now he's going to turn into a chicane that carries his name, but it's named after his father, of course, Gilles Villeneuve.
Fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth, because seventh in the green Jaguar is Eddie Irvine, eighth in the white Williams BMW is Ralf Schumacher with the yellow flash on his helmet. Behind him is Mika Salo. And here is Mika Häkkinen completing his 20th lap. Now, it's crucial that he should increase that gap as much as he can, and that Michael Schumacher should reduce it. There he is, as much as he can. It's 3 seconds now, because if we are right, it's going to be about 4 laps before one or other of them comes in.
Irvine's coming up the hill there. Looks like he ran out of gear shiftability or something like that. So Eddie Irvine slipping back down now to at least 9th position.
Lap 24. Now you watch Barrichello and David Coulthard. I'll tell you what's happening in front of and behind them. Mika Häkkinen has got Michael Schumacher in second place, 3.3 seconds behind him. There's Barrichello, who's 30 seconds behind Häkkinen. You can see where Coulthard is. Fifth is Jacques Villeneuve, 45 seconds behind the leader. In comes Trulli. 6th is Trulli, or was, because now Ralf Schumacher's gone past him and up into the points, but not for long. 7th is Mika Salo. 8th was Eddie Irvine, but he's in the pits. So it will now be Pedro Diniz and Ricardo Zonta.
Truly away first. It amazes me there's not more broken legs in that pit lane as the cars pull away, especially when they sweep back in and your rear wheel cuts the arc of the corner. This is a replay of Zonta getting out of shape into one of the chicanes. Across the grass, it's the last chicane actually, and then he's going to be, that's Heidfeld finishing his dreadful weekend. Parked up, obviously technical failure, a little bit of smoke coming from the front, but actually that is just a bit of heat soak from the brake disc and calipers. Louise, what can you tell us about Swerve Irvine?
Well, he's just been into the pits. We saw earlier on, just before he came for that pit stop, he did lose a lot of time. He reported back to the team that he was having a misfire. So what they did, they brought him into the pit slightly earlier than he was due to come in, and they've actually switched something off, according to technical director Gary Anderson. He wouldn't be drawn further on what it was they'd switched off, but he says that he's quite confident that that's going to correct the problem. So Irv's on his way again, and fingers crossed that's the end of the problem.
I certainly can't imagine what it is, and he'd switch off to stop a misfire. Let's hope he's succeeded, though. Eddie Irvine's down to 9th position at the moment. In comes the Minardi of Mazzacane, 17th position. Heidfeld, of course, out of the race. Jos Verstappen is still running. Haven't seen him recently. That means to say that there are 18 competitors still left in the race, as Mazzacane, with the shortest pit road of all to get out of the pit lane, shoots back into the fray.
Fastest pit stop of the race last year was 23.9 seconds all told, including negotiating the lane itself by Michael Schumacher. It's a little bit slower down there this year, so we're looking at something of 24, 25 seconds total loss. Now, cars 1 and 2 on the road, Hakkinen and Schumacher already have over half a minute gap on Barrichello and Coulthard, so they've got a pit stop plus in their pockets.
Mika Hakkinen is underlining his superiority here today. Fastest lap, 1:27.38, which is 1.2 seconds faster than Michael Schumacher's fastest lap last year, and the McLaren mechanics are out in the pit lane. Now, I would imagine it's for Coulthard rather than Hakkinen, because they've probably decided that if they bring Coulthard in, who clearly can't get past Barrichello, and it is. Are you there, James, or not?
I am down here, Murray, and this is going to be a very interesting one. The clock going to go on to this. It's very hard to see exactly how long it's going to be. 7, 8, 9 seconds. That's two-stop strategy. Interesting.
Yes, and David wasn't into first gear fast enough there. For every second that the car was stationary, there's about 3.5 laps worth of fuel going in when it all shakes out. So Coulthard there with a reasonable pit stop, but definitely lost another half second before he got away.
I was working something else out at the time, but I think David has actually kept his 4th place, and that Jacques Villeneuve did not get through and take that position whilst David was still in the pit lane.
Oh, Villeneuve was only 15.6 seconds behind, so he must be ahead of him. I think, Murray, you can't stop in anything less than 24, 25 seconds, as we see another ailing Prost, which can only be a Lacey, because Heidfeld is already out of the race, and there's some long, long faces in that Prost team.
Prost are having a terrible season. They've had problems with the Peugeot engine. This is Michael Schumacher. He's now 3.7 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen, and the Jaguar there coming round the left-hander and up towards Tosa. On the tail of Wurtz's Benetton is that of Johnny Herbert, and he's ahead of Fisichella. So the Benettons are having a pretty unhappy race, because they're down in 13th and 15th positions. Now let's look at the relative speed of Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar and the Benetton, but now the Ferrari mechanics, you just saw them there, are out. Now, is this for Schumacher? Is it for Barrichello? They are 2nd and 3rd.
I'd have thought they're going to be responding with Barrichello's car to David Coulthard's stop. That's what I'd imagine they're going to do. As you see a Lacey sweep straight in the garage, but we're getting the information up here that Hakkinen and Schumacher will stop on the same lap. I'm not quite sure where that information's come from, but it's coming through my headphones now. And look, Ferrari and McLaren mechanics, all of them. Yes, here's Hakkinen. Now does Schumacher follow him down the pit lane? Can't see Schumacher going around the last chicane, so he must be in the pit lane somewhere. It's very, very tight entry there. Then yes, Michael Schumacher also stopping at the same time. A straight race between the mechanics. James.
It took Schumacher a lot longer to get here than I expected, and he's still there, but quite a long fill. What does the clock say, guys? How long was it?
Well, 9.9 seconds, Schumacher.
He's doing what I thought he would do. He's put more fuel in for the second stint, so it's been very interesting.
Yeah, Mika Häkkinen has gained time. He's increased his advantage as a result of that pit stop. But if James is right, and I'm sure he is, there we are. You see he's gained 2 seconds at least on that pit stop. But Michael Schumacher has had more fuel put in the car. That is going to be very significant in the closing stages of the race. When he comes in for another stop, a new tyres, he'll be doing the end of the race on a brand new set of tyres. And at the present moment, it's still Häkkinen, Schumacher, Barrichello, Villeneuve up into 4th place, Ralf Schumacher into 5th position, Coulthard down into 6th place. The Ferrari mechanics out there waiting for Barrichello to come out. We're on lap 28 out of 62.
There's Coulthard now down into the 27s rather. Now he doesn't have to look at the back of Barrichello's Ferrari. Crucial lap now, this out lap. Neither Häkkinen nor Michael Schumacher have got any traffic ahead of them. Look, clear track ahead. So it's a question of getting back up to speed within 1 or 2 corners, really. And already now halfway around the lap, 2/3 of the way around the lap, Häkkinen should be braking exactly where he was braking before he came into the pits. You really have to condition yourself to just pick up that speed, that race speed, immediately you leave the pits.
Well, we're riding with Barrichello now in 3rd position. And I can tell you that Michael Schumacher on the new rubber is gained half a second in 1 sector from the leader, as in comes Barrichello, hits the pit stop speed limiter. There are the Ferrari mechanics. James.
Yeah, Rubens comes in. Now, of course, the critical thing here is we thought he was running quite a heavy fuel load, so he's come in now. They're putting a reasonable amount of fuel in. Well, 7.7 seconds. Bit difficult to tell what Rubens is up to today. Maybe he's just slow, guys.
Yeah, I think it may well be that. As I said earlier on, he couldn't get to grips with the handling of the Ferrari in the practice and qualifying sessions, nor this morning.
Ralf Schumacher there moves up to 4th because he hasn't stopped yet, but Barrichello remains ahead of Coulthard. Coulthard did not, he had a slower pit stop and was not able to gain any track position. Now Villeneuve's in the pits from what was 4th place, a realistic when it all sorts itself out after the stops, the first stops. Villeneuve is the 4th and Ralf Schumacher is 5th.
Lap 32 at Imola, 2 laps over half distance. Here is the top 10. Mika Häkkinen leads Michael Schumacher by 5.1 seconds. Bit misleading because their times at the pit stops were very different. Rubens Barrichello 3rd, 34 seconds behind, just ahead of David Coulthard 4th. They've both stopped. Jacques Villeneuve is in 5th position ahead of Ralf Schumacher, gained advantage on the pit stop. 7th is Mika Salo, 8th is Jarno Trulli. Eddie Irvine still running in the Jaguar in spite of that long pit stop. 9th position, Ricardo Zonta is 10th. 17 runners left, 15 are on the same lap. And out come the Jaguar mechanics for, I presume, yes, it's got to be Johnny Herbert. He has not stopped yet. Over half distance. Eddie Irvine, of course, has been in some few laps ago. You're looking at Villeneuve and Schumacher. BAR Honda and Williams BMW, and they are in 5th and 6th places, with Mika Salo in the background in the Sauber as Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar comes into the pits. Clean his visor. New set of Bridgestones go on. Out comes the jack. There's a problem somewhere. What is it? Right? Oh no, it's just the fuel taking longer than the wheels to change.
Yes, 1 stopper, of course, so 12 seconds is about right. That'll see Herbert to the end of the race. And this will be a replay of the leader, Mika Häkkinen, lapping Jos Verstappen.
Michael Schumacher is getting pretty close to being the 2nd highest point scorer of all time. He's on 6 World Championship points at the present moment, and he'll be on 596 if he finishes this race. And Ayrton Senna, the great Ayrton Senna, scored 614 to be the 2nd highest of all time, behind Alain Prost. Barrichello, Coulthard at the Variante Alta, down again towards the Rivazza underneath the bridge. and Mika Häkkinen is on his 41st lap. Now, James has hypothesised that Häkkinen is going to come in round about lap 43, that's 2 laps from now, and that Michael Schumacher will be in 6 laps later. Now, Häkkinen is cutting his way through the field magnificently. Michael Schumacher is doing no less well. And one of the Arrows mechanics, they probably had a very late night's work, and it's very, very tiring.
Coulthard, he's yo-yoing up and up to the back of Barrichello from time to time, but with the turbulent air coming off the back of the Ferrari, that's just about as close as you can get around here. And what's going to frustrate Coulthard when he sees the video of this race, and all of the drivers study the videos very, very carefully to see what they can learn of the opposition. What's going to frustrate him is it was Michael Schumacher's tardy wheel-spinning start that ended up putting him behind Rubens Barrichello. And look how close now Michael Schumacher is to Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen's lost a lot of time in the first section here, just about 3 seconds. He clearly had to follow Diniz for an awful long time.
And Michael Schumacher's now got to follow Diniz. Is the Brazilian going to move over?
Oh, did he make a mistake? He passed Diniz on the previous lap, didn't
yeah,
he? So Diniz caught Häkkinen too. So did Mika Häkkinen make a mistake? And there's Michael having to lock a brake as well. But did Häkkinen make a mistake, or has he got a little drama?
Well, I don't know, but you're absolutely right. That gap is a lot less than 3.4 seconds. And remember, Mika Häkkinen is going to be coming in very shortly. Michael Schumacher will be staying out, and he will be really applying the pressure then to increase the gap over himself and Mika Häkkinen enough to enable him to hold the lead when he comes out of the pits after his second stop. We're on lap 43.
Yes, that locking up his wheels, trying not to run into the back of Diniz, cost Michael Schumacher 1.1 seconds in the middle of the lap that they're currently on. Right, Häkkinen over the line. 129.7. Michael Schumacher still 0.7 of a second faster. The gap down to 2.6. I'd like to see a replay and see if Häkkinen just made a mistake. His car looks fine, sounds fine, but I don't know why he lost so much time on the last lap.
Neither do I, but it could be the thing that decided the race. I say it could be. We've still got some time to go. This is lap 44, 62-lap race. You're looking at the 2 leaders who are 43 seconds ahead of the battle for 3rd position. And it is still Häkkinen, McLaren, Schumacher, Ferrari, Barrichello, Ferrari, David Coulthard, who is very close indeed to the Ferrari as he exits and starts another lap and comes up towards the Tamburello.
It's a strange thing, but when you follow a car like this for so long, as Coulthard now has for 43 laps, they're on their 44th, you get mesmerised. You end up just matching your pace to the car in front. Sometimes you drop back and try and get out of that bad rhythm that you're into. And McLaren mechanics are out in the pit lane looking out of the window here. So McLaren mechanics getting ready for what I would imagine should be a second scheduled stop for one of their 2 drivers.
Yeah, and Fisichella is about to be lapped by the flying cars behind them.
Häkkinen's in the pits, Murray. Häkkinen's in the pits. The crowd are going mad out here. Michael Schumacher takes the lead of the race. Häkkinen now looks like a regular stop. As James pointed out, the Ferrari had more fuel in it. The car goes down very, very quickly, and away it goes. So great pit stop there. 8.3 seconds for Mika Häkkinen.
8.3 seconds. Now we're into the bit of the race that really matters as Mika Häkkinen sprints out of the pit lane. Michael Schumacher has taken the lead. Michael Schumacher will know that. Ferrari will have told him, not that he'll need telling because he's a master tactician himself, that he's got to keep going as fast as he possibly can in the remaining laps before he comes in for his second pit stop. So there is Fisichella about to be lapped by Barrichello and by Coulthard. Mazzacane is there and he's 2 laps down.
Yes, this could be Coulthard's best chance of the race now. While Barrichello's attention is held up in front of him with the, he's moving out of the way very, very nicely. So no problems there, no opportunities for Coulthard. Barrichello keeping his head. Now he's got the Benetton ahead of him to lap also.
Nice bit of marshalling. You saw the marshal waving the blue flag there, and that means move over. There is a driver behind you who is going faster and has the right to pass. In comes Jarno Trulli from 6th position. In behind him comes Eddie Irvine from 7th position. Absolutely together. terrifically exciting. Now is Trulli going to get out and hold his position? Yeah, no! My goodness, it's close. Yes, but look now, Irvine is much closer to him than he was. It was 2 seconds when they came in, and it's virtually nothing now.
I tell you, you never look left in that situation. When the lollipop goes up, you go. You have no visibility. All you can, if you looked in your mirrors, all you see is all of your own mechanics, and that was so close to being contact in the pit lane.
Fighting for track position. Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar, going extremely well, holding the Jordan of Jarno Trulli.
Yes, Irvine will have a half a chance, but Trulli get too good a traction out of the Villeneuve chicane there. Trulli now should just about hold his position. Trulli was a long time getting into first gear. Looked like they went dog to dog and just could not get the first gear to connect.
Meantime, up at the front of the San Marino Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher is 20.5 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen, who has had his second stop. Michael Schumacher has not. Now, Schumacher, the conventional wisdom is that at a circuit like this, the driver in front has to be at least 20 seconds ahead of the driver behind in order to be able to get into the pit lane, stop, take on new tyres. That's Ralf Schumacher going off. Ferrari are getting ready to come out. I don't think 20 seconds is enough. It needs to be 24, 25 seconds to enable Michael Schumacher to hold that lead. He's coming in earlier than I expected him to, because he must be coming in on the next lap. The mechanics have to come out on the lap that their driver is coming in.
Yes, Barrichello's in the pits this time around. You can see for yourself, Michael Schumacher remains on track. So, yes, you're right. If there was a stop now, then Michael Schumacher would come out still in the lead of this race. He's 21.5 seconds ahead of Häkkinen that time over the line.
And if Michael Schumacher wins this race, it is going to be... He's right up with Villeneuve now, who is in 6th position.
Let me correct that. He would not come out in front of Mika Häkkinen.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Correct.
Mika Häkkinen would remain in the lead. So Michael Schumacher's got to put another 5, or that's Ralf Schumacher retiring from the race. And Barrichello's in, and so is Coulthard. That's the scrap for 3rd place you've been watching all afternoon. Who's going to get away first? The Ferrari should be easily away first, and it is. Oh, that is so close. Well done. Amazing stop there from the McLaren boys. And just, well, Barrichello did well to avoid an incident there. And surely now, Coulthard's got the faster car. That should give him the podium opportunity. Michael Schumacher's going to have to stay out for at least another 5 or 6 laps if he's going to get track position. There's Ralf Schumacher walking back to the pits. You saw his car pulling off a moment or two back. Coulthard definitely getting his thing hooked, his first gear hooked up this time, and Barrichello just having to yield. Simple as that.
Yeah, a lovely bit of driving by David Coulthard. You want track position here, Rubens? Well, you're not going to get it. In his slots, and now, as Martin has pointed out, and I've had the suspicion all along. Here we are. This is it. This is going to be the stop that decides the race. The Ferrari mechanics are now coming out for Michael Schumacher, and the gap is 21.6 seconds as brother Ralph walks in, leaving the stricken Williams BMW behind him. Now, David Coulthard ahead of Barrichello. And look, you see, there's a gap extending all the time. It's beginning to look like question mark first, question mark second, David Coulthard third, Rubens Barrichello fourth, because at last the bung has been released from the bottle that was holding up David Coulthard, and he is fairly streaking away from Rubens Barrichello. Undoubtedly a very frustrated man.
Yes, Coulthard will want to show now just how fast he would have been without the problems at the start, but there's little point in throwing it off the road because he needs to, he will not catch Häkkinen or Michael Schumacher. Schumacher on a hot lap, Murray.
Yeah, very hot indeed. Faster than he's ever been in the first sector, fastest of all in the second sector. Michael Schumacher, as I expected, is extending his lead over Michael Schumacher, and the Ferrari mechanics are ready for him. James.
Yes, he's going to put less fuel in, of course, than Mika Häkkinen did in his stop. And of course, the McLaren mechanics did a fantastic job for Coulthard, which is where the race is going to be won and lost. It was a 6-2, he's going to do it by about a second, Murray.
Sensational! 2 seconds advantage on the pit stop. There is Michael Schumacher exiting the pit lane. Where is Mika Häkkinen? There he is in the background. The crowd rises. The crowd rises. They can see a chance for their hero, Michael Schumacher, to make it 3 wins in a row, to do the hat trick for his team, Ferrari, and to beat Mika Häkkinen fair and square on the track. Now that we're on lap 49 now. There are 13 laps to go, including the one that he is on. He's on fresh tyres. Ferrari will have judged the fuel to perfection. He's on a lighter car than he might have been, and Mika Häkkinen is down in second place. It looks like yet another bit of brilliant tactical thinking by Ross Brawn on the circuit, and Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher at the wheel.
I'm trying to work out the mathematics of all of that, because he didn't just pip Häkkinen out of the pit lane, did he?
Right. What he was
positively the pit straight ahead of him. Absolutely amazing.
He's done what we've seen him do before. He was on a real flyer in that lap. You see,
there's part of the answer. The 1:26.8 on his in lap. So Michael Schumacher there putting in one of his classic sprints when he most needs to. Didn't it make a huge difference?
Nearly 2 seconds faster than last year's fastest lap. Lap 49 then. Schumacher leads. Will he continue to do so? Häkkinen down to second place. Coulthard up to third. Barrichello down to fourth. Villeneuve is fifth ahead of Mika Salo in the Sauber, up into sixth position. Jarno Trulli is seventh in the Jordan. Eddie Irvine is eighth. Deniz is ninth. And Alexander Wurz is 10th.
F1 on ITV in association with Texaco.
Lap 51, and you can now at times see the two race leaders, Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen. There's Häkkinen in the same shot. Michael turns into the Ravazza. There is Mika Häkkinen behind him. 3.7 seconds was the gap at the end of the previous lap. They're coming up to the end of lap 51 in this 62-lap race, and we'll see, therefore, whether Mika Häkkinen has been able to take anything out of Michael's lead. And off goes the arrows of Pedro de la Rosa out of the race. He was in the 13th position. And that will enable Ricardo Zonta, who was some 3 seconds behind him, to move up a place. And it means that there are now 16 drivers left in the race out of the 22 who started. Not too bad a decay rate, because this is a circuit which really hits the engines and brakes.
That's a mechanical failure there from De La Rosa. His right rear is not pointing in the direction it should do at all. He just braked over the top before Piratella spun off. Suspension failure there for De La Rosa.
But this is it now. Just watch there. The white car is Villeneuve in fifth position. The other one behind is Salo Sauber, which has got Michael Schumacher getting closer and closer all the time on lap 55 out of 62. In what's turned out, as we expected, to be an absolutely riveting race in the closing stages because of the different strategies of the Ferrari and McLaren teams. Michael Schumacher took the lead as a result of that from Mika Häkkinen. Now is Salo. Yes, well done, Mika Salo. He moves over and lets Michael Schumacher through and doesn't delay the Ferrari.
Ferrari engine, of course, in the back of that Sauber, but I think Mika Salo is a straight player, straight guy, and he will not mess around with these two leaders, even though it's left him really falling on. Look how far he's fallen off the back of Villeneuve now. But I'm sure he got a pretty early call to say, Michael's coming up behind you.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 to Mika Salo. That was a very selfless move of his, because he's lost a lot of track time and space to Jacques Villeneuve ahead of him, who's now been passed by Michael Schumacher. And Michael has got the BAR and the Sauber between him and Mika Häkkinen's McLaren. So it's going to depend on how Salo and Villeneuve treat Mika Häkkinen when he comes up to pass them. I've no reason to doubt that they'll be any less generous to him than they were to Michael Schumacher. And the gap between the Ferrari and the McLaren is down to 2.4 seconds on lap 56 out of 62. I think Mika was actually delayed momentarily there, and every moment is going to matter.
Yeah, Salo was looking in his mirrors saying, well, go on then, go down that side, I'm giving you some space. So Mika did get delayed, but I don't think it was intentional on Salo's part. That was a crucial stage of the race. Michael certainly got the spring on that one.
There is Michael Schumacher completing the lap. Now, he was 3.2 seconds ahead, and he's now 2.8 seconds ahead as a result of Mika Häkkinen making the fastest lap of the race, 1:26.7. Mika knows he's really got, I won't say to throw caution to the winds, he's a very calm, methodical bloke, but he knows he's got to dig, as he did yesterday to get the fastest lap in qualifying, to close the gap on Michael Schumacher, and even then he's got to get past him. Now, the order: Schumacher leads Häkkinen, you can see. Coulthard is 46 seconds behind them, but 23 seconds ahead of Barrichello, who I suspect has got a problem. Jacques Villeneuve has been lapped and is 5th. Mika Salo is 6th, half a second behind Villeneuve. 7th is Jarno Trulli's Jordan. 8th is Eddie Irvine, still in the running in the Jaguar. 9th is Pedro Diniz, and 10th is Alexander Wurz. Johnny Herbert in the second Jaguar, still running 11th place.
Well, the next person for Michael to lap, who's some 20 seconds down the road actually, is his own teammate, Rubens Barrichello. Gives you some idea of the pace of these two drivers up front.
That is incredible. Rubens Barrichello is 70 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, and Schumacher is lapping at the present moment in about 1 minute 26, so 1:27. So in another few laps, and as you rightly point out, Martin, the Ferrari would be lapping its teammate. And it goes through now. Häkkinen is 2.6 seconds behind. He certainly isn't giving up. I certainly wouldn't expect him to. McLaren can do nothing to help except keep their fingers crossed and pray for the Finn, who is giving it his everything on lap 59. You can see the gap visually. The gap in terms of time at the end of the lap was 2.6 seconds, and it is decreasing.
Yes, a new fastest lap there again from Mika Häkkinen, 26.604. You can see it on your screen. You're watching a battle royal between two supreme sportsmen who are absolutely on top of their cars and on top of their sport. Absolutely thrilling stuff.
Out goes Jarno Trulli, or is he just off the track? He's making his way back very carefully to protect the nose wing. But Jos Verstappen is the man in the arrows who is 2 laps down ahead of Michael Schumacher. He needs to move over to let the German through cleanly. He does so. I'm sure he'll do the same thing for Mika Häkkinen. This is lap 61. Just 1 lap to go after that. I can't see even Mika Häkkinen catching and then getting past Michael Schumacher, but stranger things have happened in this world.
Trulli is out of the race. We're getting the information Trulli has actually stopped, but that doesn't affect the top 6. Eddie Irvine now moves up into 7th place, and there's Jarno Trulli being escorted out of the gravel trap.
And Michael Schumacher pursued by that man. Mika Häkkinen is very shortly going to start the 62nd and last lap of the San Marino Grand Prix, and he does so now. And the Ferraristas, the Tifosi in the grandstands are holding their breaths. They're going to go mad if Michael Schumacher wins this race for the 2nd year in succession, followed by a McLaren. This year driven by Mika Häkkinen. Last year, the 2nd place car was the McLaren of David Coulthard. The Ferrari mechanics are on the pit lane, and Häkkinen is climbing up from the Tosa, pursuing Michael Schumacher. 1.8 seconds was the gap at the end of the previous lap. The crowd is rising. They're going down to the Acqua Minerale bends, the lowest point of the circuit, where it starts to climb again to the Variante Alta, up to 180 miles an hour. Race leader Schumacher. 2nd place Mika Häkkinen. He can do it. I don't think he will, but he can. If Michael Schumacher makes a mistake, which is more than unlikely, we're going to see a dramatic change.
Yes, there's a car ahead, but it's the sister Ferrari of Barrichello, and it's far enough ahead not to come into play in any way. And there's absolutely no way Michael Schumacher will make a mistake to the end of this lap. It's just a question of cruising home now, providing us no silly mechanical dramas. Through the last corner, Murray.
Down to the Trocado and out of it, and Michael Schumacher wins the San Marino Grand Prix by 1.1 seconds from a marvellous Mika Häkkinen. What a sensational race this has been, and the 3rd successive victory for Michael Schumacher, and to win here at Imola in Italy in front of the Tifosi, not for the first time but for the 2nd time, is going to be absolutely marvellous for him.
Well, you can't beat the Reds in F1 2000. And now Michael Schumacher heads for Silverstone after delivering back-to-back Ferrari victories at Imola.
Michael, that's 3 wins in a row, but was this the best so far?
Certainly. No doubt, because he was fighting from the beginning to the end, the McLaren in the race, not retiring. And that was certainly a big pleasure. Them being here in Italy, in our home country, what do you want more?
I had a technical problem with the engine just cutting out suddenly in the main straight, and I lost a massive amount of time, which enables us to Michael to really push and to be able to be in front of me. Also, he stopped later on, you know, that also helped him. But I mean, these technical problems did not help me either to perform as well as I should have been, you know.
Michael was really strong all weekend. I had a good lap on qualify, but you know the race. It was for sure. It was hard to keep the motivation after I lost the thing on the pit stops. But you know, I was nowhere. I was holding David, and I was fair, but I was holding David, and I was really nowhere at the weekend.
I thought Rubens was obviously going to be a bit slower than Michael and Mika, but I never realised he would be as slow as he was. And I thought, God, he's in a one stop. And I thought, right, we're really in trouble here, because I knew I was in a 2. And then when he did pit a couple of laps after me, or 3 laps after me, whenever it was in the first stop, then I realised he was just having some problems this race. And again, caught him up and sat there. But thankfully, the guys did a great job in the pit stop. So when I got out in front of him, I was able to go 2 seconds a lap quicker or something ridiculous like that.
I think what we've got to think about is what happened with Rubens, because that was so close to an accident. And I think we've got to have a think, all the teams, about how we handle that situation. I'm not criticising McLaren, but yeah, that was so close to an accident, and it's going to end up with a lot of mess in the pit lane. So we've got to have a think about what we do with those sort of situations.
You had a problem with your engine when you came in for the stop. I understand you switched something off. What was happening there?
Yeah, no, we had a problem with the engine, and I was trying to move a calibration on the engine, and hit the pit limiter, and it cut out, and a couple of guys got past me. But all in all, I think it was very positive.
And so treble top for Schumacher. His teammate Barrichello is next, 21 points behind. Then Fisichella still on 8. Ralf Schumacher didn't score today, but Häkkinen's off and running, followed by Villeneuve, and behind him Coulthard. In the constructors, Ferrari have opened up a 29-point lead over McLaren. Then Benetton above Jordan and Williams, both out of the points here. BAR, though, improving to 6 after Villeneuve's 5th place. Delighted that Murray has joined myself and Tony up here in the studio. Well, Murray, have Ferrari put the dagger through McLaren's throat here?
No, Jim. You can beat the Reds, and McLaren can do it. I'm far from convinced that they are out as well as down. Yes, they're certainly down. But there's 2 things. The first is that Mika Häkkinen had a damaged car floor today. He had an electronic glitch in the engine. He lost a lot of time. If David Coulthard had made a better start, he would have blown Rubens Barrichello away very convincingly indeed. Silverstone is going to be something very special indeed, because McLaren can do it.
Tony, the big 2 still haven't really gone head-to-head without any mechanical glitches.
No, that's true, but on today's evidence, McLaren was marginally the better car, and it means they are turning things around. They've done a lot of engine work by Ilmor and Mercedes, and although, as Murray said, there was a little glitch there, you can see signs of the Silver Arrows really coming back. It's still early in the season.
Murray, the ideal start, wasn't it, for Mika Häkkinen? Not so for Michael Schumacher, but the birthday boy Jacques Villeneuve. What a start he made here.
Absolutely. I mean, Mika Häkkinen got away well. Michael Schumacher darted straight across in front of David Coulthard. Look at Villeneuve coming up, and Rubens Barrichello right alongside Michael Schumacher as they go into the first turn. In fact, Rubens Barrichello just squeezes through there in front of David Coulthard, and Jacques Villeneuve up into 5th place. Now here it is again. Rubens Barrichello, that's Coulthard on the left. Schumacher moves across in front of the McLaren. Rubens Barrichello got a fabulous run into that first corner. Michael Schumacher darted in front of him, and Rubens Barrichello slotted in front of the McLaren. Great driving.
Tony, all sorts of activity in the pits. In many ways, the race was won and lost there. Häkkinen and Schumacher involved, first of all.
Oh, this was very exciting because they came in together. Häkkinen leading the race. He comes in, we thought, well, maybe he was going to make an early stop, but then we learned from our pit crew that Schumacher coming in at the same time. So this was the battle of the two crews. Michael Neglin's crew there of McLaren getting his man Häkkinen away first. We're thinking, well, where's Schumacher? At this stage, what's going on? He tarried a bit longer, extra 2 seconds, took that extra fuel for that longer second run. But a great contest in the pits, as you said.
Lots of controversy after the race about this one. I mean, the moment that you will remember above all, I think, Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah, because it was dramatic, because it was dangerous. And we were looking at Coulthard coming into 4th place, and behind him in comes Rubens Barrichello. Great job again by the McLaren boys from Woking, and they're just getting ready. And Rubens gets a big sideways on. Out comes Coulthard right across the face of Rubens Barrichello. Rubens having to brake very heavily, but Coulthard didn't really know he was there. He was just going for it. He can't see through the mirrors. He can't turn his head around from the shoulder with all the padding on the side, but nonetheless, a dangerous incident.
Yeah. Then that lightning pit stop for Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, I mean, that was great because he had to make a shorter stop. Here he was coming in 4 laps after Mika Häkkinen had come in. He stayed out, he put the hammer down. Let's not forget, he put in a brilliant in-lap in the 27s there, and 6.3, smaller amount of fuel coming out the end. And I'm sure Murray, going back through this now, we were looking, where was Häkkinen? We didn't know at this time that he'd had the little glitch with the engine or the damage to the floor. But the combination of the tactics, the combination of the superb driving by Michael Schumacher has put McLaren back down again into the glums.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. Now then, Murray, Silverstone at Easter weekend. How are you relishing that?
Well, let's assume the weather's going to be all right, and it can be. I've been there for some wonderful meetings in April. It's a renewal of the contest of the Titans, McLaren versus Ferrari, and I wouldn't like to put money on any of the first 4.
And so here's your complete San Marino rundown. Michael Schumacher delivers for the Ferrari hordes, the Tifosi. Häkkinen can't win at Imola, but he did have the fastest lap late on. Coulthard 3rd after spending most of the race staring at Barrichello's exhaust. Villeneuve again scoring for BAR. Salo's first point for Sauber, and he's kept it. Irvine 7th, that's Jaguar's first finish. Then Deniz in the second Sauber. Wurz 9th for Benetton. Johnny Herbert bringing the second Jaguar home in 10th. Then Fisichella out of the points for the first time. Zonta in the second, BAR. Mazzacani's Minardi 2 laps behind. Verstappen's Arrows 3 laps adrift. Trulli had gearbox trouble, but he completed 58 laps. He's the last official finisher. De La Rosa, he crashed after gear selection problems. Ralf Schumacher's fuel pump failed. Alace's hydraulics went. Heidfeldt's battery failed. Button's engine blew, and Genet spun on the oil spill that followed. Frenson's gears, they stuck early on. Next stop then, as we've been telling you, it's Easter weekend, and we go to the British Grand Prix.
Go at Silverstone!
Out of control.
Extensive programming for you throughout the weekend. A Good Friday special to get you all in the mood. 4:15 on the Friday. Qualifying from 12:30 on the Saturday. Nigel Mansell will join us for that. Then Tony presents a Grand Prix theme night. Special look behind the scenes at Jaguar. 8 o'clock that on ITV2 on the Saturday night. And the race live from 12 o'clock on the Sunday. The British Grand Prix starts at 1. Catch me if you can. That's the message from Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. See you at Silverstone. Good night.